Welcome into the sports room. Today's actually Tuesday. We usually only go Mondays and Fridays, but we had to do one today, coming off the tail of the College Football Playoff. And it gives me great pleasure, an enormous honor, and a treat for all those watching and listening today that we have the most eligible bachelor in the state of Utah sitting in the sports room with us today.
Mr. Spencer Marty McGhie.
You guys are making me blush. We're a minute into the pod. I'm blushing.
You are definitely the most eligible bachelor in the state.
Well,
and by that I mean not only are you single, but you are the hottest name in single circles right now.
I don't know what circles you're speaking of.
All circles, dude.
Please point me in their direction.
Every circle that includes single people are talking about you, Spencer McGhie. Welcome into the room.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So much has happened. Derek missed the last show.
I did.
Shocker.
And apparently I've missed the memo that it's Orange Day.
It is Orange Day.
Got Spencer blushing. His face is matching his orange Elway jersey, and Bubba's wearing his Florida Gators orange polo.
Always repping.
New year. Same me.
How was your guys' New Year?
It was good. No complaints.
What you guys do? Just hang out?
Yeah, I was with the fam.
You didn't go out and get sloshed on the weekend, dude?
I'm not a big New Year's guy, if that's shocking to anybody listening to this pod.
Well, you told us last night, New Year's Day, what'd you spend your... I mean, I'm sure you watched the games, right? But how'd you spend your late night evening, Mr. Eligible Bachelor?
Went and hung out with a group of people. I knew like 3 of them. And they all wanted to watch The Bachelor. I wasn't going to oppose.
You caved.
I caved. I mean, it's either that or make surface-level conversation with a bunch of 23-year-old dudes that I really don't care about.
You're 26.
Yeah, I'm 26. So you got to hang out with these dudes, whatever. But so we watched The Bachelor. I'm not a big Bachelor guy.
Give us. We talked to Spencer a little bit before the show. Give us a 30-second recap.
Dumb it down for us, dude.
On The Bachelor last night.
All right, The Bachelor this year, he's like older. His name's Ari. He drives race cars.
He's older, like how old? Like 40?
I think he's like 37. But all the girls I watched it with were way upset. They hated his hair. Said it was bad style.
Like it's just not good looking.
Yeah. Well, some of them were down. Some weren't at all. But there's way pretty girls. A lot of them are crazy obnoxious. There's 2 girls on there from Utah. Rep. Let's go, suh. And it was just too much. It's so cheesy, it's so dramatic, but it'll suck you right in.
So why don't you tell us the real reason why you were hanging out with these people yesterday then?
Well,
they're not gonna watch this, so you can tell.
Eligible bachelor. I was trying to hang out with a specific girl, so I therefore hung out with all of her friends. Said girl did not come, so that's always great. Way to start out 2018 with nothing but disappointment.
Getting aced.
Score 1 for the Gipper.
Dude, you know what happens to everybody.
Just us more than others, I guess.
Yeah. But it's all right. At least you got some major brownie points hanging out with the friends, watching The Bachelor.
Did watch The Bachelor.
Well, I thought you were trying to hide that you don't like The Bachelor. You love The Bachelor.
Low-key, super entertaining. It was really funny. I'm tempted to do like a fantasy league.
Maybe you could start a Bachelor pod.
I definitely got my money on the blonde girl from Utah. Like, she's his type. She's really pretty. She rolled up in a race car from
She's
Larry
his
Miller.
type, like she's older?
Well, he was on The Bachelor already, and he fell for this really pretty blonde girl who kicked him to the curb, R.I.P.
After the show? So he picked her at the end, and then she aced him?
He was on The Bachelorette.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't make it.
Oh, okay.
So, he's got a thing for blondes. But I'm not a big fan. She could probably do better. He's aight.
He's decent.
Yeah.
You hear that? AKA, she could do better, Mr. Marty McGhie.
I highly doubt that I'm her type.
All right, so Spence is joining us today in the sports room to talk about, yes, you guessed it, sports. So Spence, why don't you give us all a little bit of a background into your sporting life, starting with your one true love, the Utah Jazz.
I love the Utah Jazz. We've been through it all. The 3 of us in the room, we talk a lot about the Jazz lately.
With the passion of 1,000 suns.
With the passion of 1,000 suns. I attended 2 games over Christmas break, and boy, did I pick the right 2 games. I saw the Jazz beat the Spurs, which was shocking.
Hold on.
For real. I have a big grudge against the Spurs because growing up I watched them just obliterate the Jazz over and over and over. My sister's also dating a Spurs fan who was in attendance at the game with me. Cram it where the sun don't shine. That's what's up. And then I also attended, and Donovan Mitchell didn't play, so when I heard he wasn't going to play.
Against the Spurs.
Against the Spurs. I thought we were going to lose.
And we still won.
Yeah, I thought we were going to lose by 30. But the key is in the regular season, get up by 12 on the Spurs in the fourth quarter and Popovich just mail it in. Like, just seriously, go as hard as you can to the beginning of the fourth quarter and just pray he mails it in. And then I went to the Jazz-Cavs game, and Donovan Mitchell lit that stadium up. He gets more love on the big social media outlets than any Jazz player I've ever seen.
That includes Gordon Hayward.
Oh, my gosh.
Gordon Hayward as a rookie was nowhere near the status of Donovan Mitchell.
No. So I don't know if you guys saw.
I saw a couple of videos pop up on Twitter.
Yeah,
the alley-oop that he threw down his head was pretty much level with the rim, and then the tomahawk in the second half was.
It was like
that alley-oop was unbelievable.
Dude, he flies. And then the other thing is, I haven't seen the Jazz. We have a history for not playing rookies, like being really patient. I guess that comes from Jerry Sloan. But they benched Ricky Rubio, who was about to get a triple-double. Okay, he was 2 assists shy of a triple-double. Pull Ricky Rubio out with like 4.5 minutes left and just gave Donovan Mitchell the ball. And they sat Rodney Hood in the corner. They sat Joe Ingles in the other. Thabo Sefolosha was just avoiding the ball at all costs on the offensive end.
But he was great.
He played wonderful, dude. He was in LeBron's head. That's the best game I've seen Thabo play. But literally, it was the Donovan Mitchell show. And everybody knew it, and they couldn't stop him. The best is when the Jazz are up by 1 with like 35 seconds left. D. Mitchell does a little in and out on J.R. Smith, goes, finishes around LeBron, and then you just see Dwayne Wade. He like kind of doubles over and just stares. Like,
dude, all game, he had Dwayne Wade's number.
Oh, my gosh.
He blocked him, scored on him, beat him.
Dude, he swatted LeBron.
Granted, Wade's like 50.
Yeah, but LeBron got the most LeBron call ever. He blocks LeBron off the backboard.
Called it goaltending?
They called it a foul. It was pretty soft, but great game. D-Mitch has the state on fire. He's really the only reason to watch the Jazz.
There hasn't been really this much excitement around a player in a really long time.
He did a thing at Stance Sox, and people waited 6 hours to meet him during the Christmas break.
I saw videos of that on my Twitter feed as well. Just lines out the mall.
Wild. I mean, he's gone to University of Utah. He sat in the Muss. He was at the BYU game. He's all over the place. People love him. But what's not to love? He's humble. He's funny. He throws the frick down like no Jazz player ever
when
does.
Thabo Sefolosha was getting in LeBron's head and they both got teed up. Best part was when Donovan Mitchell was just smiling and clapping right past LeBron.
Dude, it's just, you can tell that he believes that he belongs there. And you know what? I loved Gordon Hayward. He was my boy for years. But at the end of the day, Gordon Hayward, I don't think he thinks he belongs in the elite level of the NBA. He's a really good player. He's an all-star. We need him. I'm not going to say we don't. But you look, even when Gordon Hayward made the all-star game, like him just trying to interact or anything like that, it's just, I don't think he believes he
went
belongs.
out into the all-star game and played and shot a layup.
Yeah, he literally.
If that doesn't tell you how much he does not fit into that
He looked around and he's
group.
like, I think I might be the only white all-star next to Marc Gasol.
Yeah. But he, you can tell that Donovan Mitchell really believes that he's there. And this is my bold prediction for the pod. 3 seasons. We'll go 4. It's going to be the Donovan Mitchell versus Dennis Smith Jr. show. Jazz-Mavs rivalry will be back. They're just going to go at it for years, and it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be a battle.
I watch it every time.
Oh, every time.
Because obviously Donovan's lighting the league on fire, but Dennis Smith Jr., a lot of people were saying that he was the best athlete in the draft.
Right.
And he's shown flashes of that throughout the season, but I hope so. I hope we get something like that. To see every, year playoff series or something like that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and the day after Donovan Mitchell won the game for the Jazz over the Cavs, Dennis Smith Jr. did the same to the Thunder. He took Westbrook right to the rim, finished around. It was just, dang. There's some good young blood in the NBA.
So your first love in professional basketball is the Utah Jazz. And I've had this conversation with you a few times, but you also... Let's get to the Broncos, because you're wearing your Elway jersey right now.
Yes.
Broncos found themselves in a peculiar situation this weekend. They went, what was the record?
They ended up with 5 wins.
5-11.
Yeah.
And then there were reports surfacing during on Sunday that Vance Joseph was going to be fired.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on in the day and this morning, confirming reports that he was being retained. And so from your chair, wearing your Elway jersey, as a huge Broncos fan that you are, your thoughts about that are blank.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I mean, Vance Joseph, he seems like a great guy. I love his interviews. He's very charismatic. The players seem to really like him. But as we've learned in Happy Valley, Provo, Utah, being a good guy doesn't win you football games.
True.
I worry about the locker room. The Broncos really lack leadership. I think the fall of the Denver Broncos honestly reflects really well on Peyton Manning's career. I mean, the dude couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards without it looking like a duck going down. But, man, he was the leader of the locker room. And you just see how far they've fallen. I don't think Vance Joseph's one to really grab the reins and rally the troops. He's more of a player first, coach as like a friend. And I'm just really worried about the Broncos. I didn't like how they dealt with TJ Ward early in the season. And I wore this John Elway jersey to let John Elway know that he's killing me. I mean, you hire Vance Joseph, you got arguably the best defense in the league, right? The no-fly zone, that's what's killing me, is Vance Joseph might become a good head coach, but we're just squandering a Super Bowl defense. They don't grow on trees, obviously, and I'm just bummed. I would have given Wade Phillips a job. What he did with that Denver defense, at Son of Bum on Twitter, go give him a follow. He's so funny. But I was sad. Look what he did to the Rams. Wade Phillips went to the Rams. Look at him now.
So finish the sentence. The future quarterback of the Broncos is? Anyone but Sam Darnold. Okay, Sam Darnold might be better than Paxton Lynch because Paxton Lynch is pretty bad. Man, I don't know. I would lean towards, we're obviously going to try to get someone in the draft. Josh Allen's got a lot of question marks. I know everybody's in love with. You're a Josh Allen supporter.
I am, but I'm worried that we just have this fetish for Carson Wentz. Okay, Carson Wentz and like Ben Roethlisberger have been great in the NFL, but how many other small school quarterbacks that we didn't know a lot about have panned out? So I'm not sold on Josh Allen. I saw him play in the bowl game, in his bowl game for Wyoming last season. Wasn't super impressed, to be honest.
You were there. You played against BYU.
I was there. It was bad weather, but by no means was the BYU secondary any good, and he couldn't really get the ball out, and he didn't have a great stat line. I wasn't super impressed, but at the same time, you look, and yeah, he's got upside that could be like Carson Wentz, but man, Baker Mayfield's a gamer. I'm worried about Josh Rosen. I don't mind the attitude, but I am worried about the concussions. I don't like Sam Darnold. So if they're not going to go Josh Allen, I would go Baker Mayfield because I think he's got Russell Wilson potential, or he could be an absolute bust.
He's either Wilson or Manziel.
Exactly.
You're exactly right. He's not mobile enough to be Russell Wilson.
Yeah. He's shifty. I just don't know.
He's small.
I don't know if he's going to be able to get away with what he does. With in college.
But his draft rating has gone up.
Yeah, but
he's projected first rounder now.
That worries me.
Well, look, what he's done. I mean, you could say that it's a credit to the system that he plays in. He plays under Lincoln Riley. He's got the spread offense, which I know that people say that spread quarterbacks don't always translate to the NFL.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy for 2 years straight completed over 70% of his passes, with 40-plus touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions both his junior and senior year. That doesn't come around very often. And look, we've seen people that are short. He's shorter. I think he's probably 6 foot, maybe 6'1". And we've seen short quarterbacks succeed before, like Russell Wilson and Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And he's squirmy, but I don't know that he's necessarily a scrambler.
Yeah.
He's elusive and slippery in there in the pocket, but he's not much of a let me get out and run, a genuine dual threat like Russell Wilson is.
Right.
But make no mistake about it, the guy can throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a strong arm and he's accurate. And I think what you just said about the leadership, I think he's got natural charisma and leadership ability. And so, not a bad choice there,
swag.
I don't think.
He does have swag.
The Broncos are picking what in the
Fifth.
draft? Okay. So they should have choices at that point.
I think they'll have options. I think one quarterback will for sure be gone.
Yeah, one for sure. The Browns will almost certainly take that. The Browns have the first and the fourth pick, and they'll almost certainly use one of those on the quarterback.
Yeah, they better.
What kills me, we've talked about this before, and this is a debate for another day. I know we have split feelings about having dual teams in the NFL. I root for the Niners and I root for the Broncos. And at the end of the day, the 49ers have no business having a better record than the Denver Broncos, even with Jimmy G and how great Jimmy Garoppolo has been. That's a joke. The Broncos they have a great team. That is the same defense that won them a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning playing offensive coordinator and handing the ball off and being a game manager. But, dude, just looking at it and saying, okay, the Niners finished with a better record than the Broncos, I think that reflects on coaching. I think that reflects on leadership. And I'm a big believer in talent, but as you see at UCF, what Scott Frost did in 2 years, coaching has a lot to do with it.
Well, let's get in. Let's start into what happened this weekend. I guess yesterday. Yesterday, obviously, was the College Football Playoff. Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl games. Let's talk about the Rose Bowl first. That, was an incredible game. One of the best. What I love to see in games is when there's this huge swing of emotions for both teams. One team starts really hot, the other team comes back, then the other team comes back, and then there's fumbles, there's scoop and scores, there's interceptions, there's turnovers, there's drama. That was a great game. Obviously, Georgia winning that one in double overtime. They were favored in the game, which I was kind of surprised about. Defense came to play in the second half. Derek, your thoughts?
I think one of the biggest... Well, first of all, let's start with reminding you all that we had a punishment on the line for all of these games. So next show... On Friday, the loser was...
Yeah, I'm 0-2.
Dun-dun-dun.
I'm 0-2. First time I had to wear the dress, which is conveniently sitting right there on the couch. And then this time the punishment was I got to stand up there and take 5 ping pong shots to the back.
Ooh.
I'm 0-2 in picks. I'm a terrible picker.
Shirtless, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Ladies.
No, I'll just wear my big thick coat.
Just checking.
I went 2 and 4.
Darius was 3 and 3.
The ones I got right were Georgia and Ohio State. Darius went 3 and 3, and Derek went 5 and 1. All right, so Rose Bowl. Your guys' thoughts on how that played out. Derek, why don't you go ahead and start?
I think the key play to this game, I watched this game, and I think one of the biggest difference makers was right before the half, Oklahoma put in a touchdown and kicked some type of pooch onside.
Meant to be a squib, maybe?
It was like a meant to be squib gone wrong.
Yeah.
And Georgia had like 17 seconds.
Not even. There were like 7 seconds.
Was there 7 seconds?
I think so.
7?
They ran one play and then kicked it.
They ran one play and got a field goal to make it a 2-possession game. So instead of 31-14, it was 31-17. I think that changed the game because Georgia came out in the half and Oklahoma did not score until like midway through the fourth quarter.
Definitely, yeah. That definitely played a part in momentum.
But I love what you said where it was back and forth. There was times when I was like, this is Oklahoma's game. They're going to win it.
Went up huge in the first half.
There was times when I was like, this is Georgia's game. They're going to win it. Went to overtime. Oklahoma's kicker looked like he had just seen a ghost.
Yeah, he
did not want to be involved.
I thought he was missing every single
He was like expecting Baker Mayfield to walk that one in for him. And when I saw his face, I was like, I told my dad, I was like, he's going to miss. Made the first one. Watched him walk out there again with looked like zero confidence added from his kick before. Got that blocked, and that ended up being the reason why they lost.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Georgia's halftime adjustments. I think we saw Baker Mayfield struggle. He was picking the zone apart in the first half, like just shredding Georgia's zone. And then you saw Georgia go more man against Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield struggled. I think we talked about how Baker Mayfield's a shorter quarterback. Georgia's got to be one of the longer defensive lines that he would have faced all season. And I think he got lost. I honestly think he couldn't see a couple plays. And I was just really impressed with Georgia's halftime adjustments.
Yeah, Kirby Smart said it at halftime when he was walking off. Whoever the sideline reporter was asked him kind of what was going wrong, basically, because they gave up 31 points in the first half. This is one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah.
And he basically said, look, this is our fault as coaches. We're not putting them in enough position to play well and to succeed and putting them in a position where they can win this game and make plays. And he also said that he felt like they were playing nervous and that they weren't being themselves. And you saw a completely different team come out in the second half. And so there's going to be a lot of people I've heard a lot of people talking about how, yes, Oklahoma scored 48 points on Georgia, which was this great defense, and they are a great defense. What we saw in the second half was closer to their actual defense. I thought the defense they've been playing all season, with aggressive blitzing, getting pressure on the quarterback, and almost impossible to run the ball against them. Oklahoma scored 17 points in the second half still.
One was a scoop and score, though, right?
One was a scoop and score. Yeah. And so just night and day difference between the two halves for Georgia.
Yeah.
That squib kick did play a big part. You go from 3 possessions to 2 possessions in 7 seconds. And you come out, they get a 3 and out the first possession, they go down and score their first possession.
It's a momentum killer, too.
Yeah.
You just got a touchdown,
killer.
and then they end up with the last points of the half.
And look, I've said this on this show for weeks. This is why I picked TCU. I thought TCU would beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. When you have a defense as bad as theirs is, it rears its ugly head.
Oh.
And it always seems like that happens at the worst time possible. And for them, it was this entire game. Look, Georgia scored in every quarter. They scored at least 1 touchdown in every quarter. And they had 317 rushing yards on 34 carries. Okay, Nick Chubb and Sony Michel both averaged over 10 yards a carry. I mean, 11 carries, 181 yards for Sony Michel.
Too many
and 3
big plays.
touchdowns.
Too many big plays.
Yeah, huge runs. Sony Michel had a 75-yard touchdown run, and Nick Chubb had a 50-yard touchdown run. And so that's what I'm saying. That's what I had been saying this entire every time we've been doing this podcast, is that when you have a bad defense, it comes back to haunt you in big games like this. And, I mean, Georgia's defense, like I said in the first half, did not play well. I can't say enough about Jake Fromm.
Oh, my goodness.
Who's in high school a year ago. He was at senior prom 1 year ago. And
unconscious.
20 for 29, 210 yards, two touchdowns, QBR of 60.
Yeah, I want the Broncos to draft him.
Got to wait a couple of years.
Yeah, for real.
But I can't explain to you how impressed I was with him.
Yeah.
No moment was too big. He was a flatliner out there. Mm-hmm. Never got too high or too low. He just went out and played. And with the way they were running, he didn't need to throw the ball that much. Just on a few third downs. He converted a couple huge third downs on that last drive when they went down to score after the scoop and score. Just can't say enough about how big that guy played. And as a Florida Gator fan, it scares the crap out of me because he's a true freshman. He's going to be here for at least 2 more years.
Yeah. I thought Oklahoma, man, when they went to overtime and held Georgia to a field goal, first OT, I'm like,
I thought that might be it.
This is it. Like, Oklahoma's defense, bend, don't break. All right. And I thought it was really weird play calling, 3 straight handoffs. I mean, you got the best player in college football.
Really conservative.
Well, that second one, they got 5 yards on their first carry.
Yeah.
And then they went and threw the ball. It's like,
yeah, I was like, the first overtime, they just ran it, and it didn't do anything. And then the second overtime, it was just really bizarre. I think the inexperience of Lincoln Riley, right?
The head coach.
The head coach of Oklahoma. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but you'd like to see the ball more in Baker Mayfield's hands, especially in that
when
first
you get in
overtime.
situations like that, you have to let it's either get the ball to your best player or put the ball in his hands and let him make a decision of what to do.
Exactly.
And the play calling down the stretch negated that completely. Mm-hmm. It was, what you're supposed to do with the ball. This is what you're supposed to do. Whereas a player of his caliber, you got to let the competitor in him react.
Yeah.
And play.
And what killed me is the Oklahoma offense could not do anything in the second half. They had that one drive. They marched the whole field in 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and it was all Baker Mayfield. So the only success that they had on the offensive end in the second half was essentially through Baker Mayfield. And then you get to overtime, and they just kind of bailed, I felt like.
Yeah, he played good, not great, I didn't think. He went 23 for 35 for 287, 2 touchdowns, a pick.
Yeah.
That pick kind of came when Georgia was sieging Oklahoma in the third quarter. Yeah. Just completely overthrew a receiver, but he caught a touchdown pass as well. And so he played good, not great. I think he could have played much better in the second half. And had he played a little bit better in the second half, they'd probably win that game.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, Georgia moving on after winning an epic Rose Bowl. Had there been probably a combined maybe 20 less points in that game, I would probably say that's the best game ever. Because it's hard for me. It's hard for me when there's that many points scored. To me, a great game, there's points got to be a little bit more of a premium. It was still fun to watch. I'm not complaining.
But that second half was probably better because there was stops.
Yeah, there were stops.
First half, it was just like
both teams made some stops. Everyone was just scoring in the first half. But great game nonetheless. Kirby Smart, in only his second year as head coach of Georgia, taking him to the national championship game with a true freshman quarterback. Can't say enough about that. So that was the first semifinal. The second semifinal, I picked the Georgia game correctly. I did not pick the Alabama-Clemson game correctly. I thought Clemson would win that game. Just dominance. It was just dominance by Alabama.
Yeah.
Defensively, mostly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, Clemson's had a great offense, and they held them to 6 points. And I mean, Kelly Bryant didn't even look like he wanted to go back out on the field after a while.
True.
Yeah.
And he was just getting hit, and everything he would throw was getting tipped up to a pick. That's what Alabama does, though. This is what Alabama looked like Alabama of last year, where their defense would just score, and then they would just make big play after big play that would just deplete the other team.
Yeah, I feel like that was classic Crimson Tide football. Just a dominant defensive effort. Like Dabo Swinney said as they were walking into halftime, it gave me hope. I was pulling for Clemson, and Dabo's like, look, we couldn't have played worse, and we're still in this. And then they were driving in the second half, and that pick.
That
was
all she wrote.
That was the third quarter. I mean, they come out in the third quarter and got a turnover. I believe like the first or second play of the game. Kicked a field goal. Yeah, but that pick, I believe at the end of the third, maybe the beginning of the fourth quarter was the real dagger.
Yeah.
Kelly Bryant completed 18 passes, and he averaged 3.4 yards per completion. He went 18 for 36 for 124 yards. His QBR was 7.2.
Jeez. My biggest beef with Clemson's game plan is they're just going east and west on Bama. You cannot go east and west on Bama. I know it's hard to go north and south against Bama, but that's the only way. You just got to grind them. You got to wear them down. I mean, it took a superhero effort from Deshaun Watson last year to beat him.
Yeah, it was almost like people were surprised that Kelly Bryant was not Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, throughout the entire season, everyone was talking about how there was little drop-off between the two. I'm sitting there thinking, like, this guy's not even close. He's not even close. Deshaun Watson was a generational type of college football player with not only how talented and skilled that he was, how big and fast and strong he was, but how much of a leader he was, the intangibles that he possessed don't come around hardly at all. I've probably seen it maybe 3 times in my life watching college football. Probably in him and Tim Tebow and maybe
college Vince Young.
And maybe Vince Young. Like, it just does not come around very often. And so when people are, like, surprised that Kelly Bryant didn't play as well, okay, well, he's not Deshaun Watson, and nor was he ever going to be.
I also think people thought because Alabama lost to their rival Auburn on the road, one game all year, and they didn't play much, that all of a sudden they just weren't the Alabama that we know. But as we saw, Alabama is Alabama.
I thought that was hilarious. Last night on Twitter, all the people who were bashing the committee for having put Alabama in, the committee put the best 4 teams in the country in the playoff. Okay, and the people who are bashing them for putting Alabama in are now, like, their narrative changed from being Alabama's not one of the 4 best teams and, I can't believe they put Alabama in. It's like, how can you argue that they were one of the best 4 teams in the country when they're now going to play for another national championship? Like, how are those two thoughts connected in your mind that they shouldn't have belonged in the playoff, but yet they might win another title? That just was completely baffling to me. There were so many people, most of that worked for FS1, the Joel Klass, the Danny Cannells of the world, that were just, I just can't handle those guys.
Yeah, boy, Danny Cannell.
I love to tweet at him because there's no doubt that the only reason he tweets half the things he does is to get reaction, and they get reaction.
Does he ever respond to your tweets back?
He responds every once in a while. He's too scared.
I see you.
You're too scared, Danny.
I literally unfollowed Danny Cannell because I said anything worth reading, Bubba will quote tweet.
It's true.
So
I mean, he's one of these conspiracy theorists, like this is all a farce. This college football playoff is garbage. They're just biased towards the SEC. I thought the best 4 teams, and the majority of people I feel like think the best 4 teams got in the playoff, and that's the ultimate goal of this committee. Let's move on. We'll move on. We'll talk about that in just a second, but let's move on to UCF. Well, just to wrap up our last conversation, so Alabama and Georgia will be playing in the national championship game. That'll be on Monday, a week from yesterday. Spence, you want to make a pick there? Me and Derek will make ours on Friday, but Spence, you want to?
Pulling for the Dogs. I think Bama wins 27-17. Close game at halftime. I think Bama pulls away in the end. I think they're going to stop the run in the second half. I just think they're too much.
6th national title for Nick Saban it would be.
Yeah.
Should they win.
Like I said, I am not rooting for Alabama. If there's anybody not rooting for Alabama, it is me. All dogs, dog train, woo, woo. But I don't think they can pull it off. Maybe I'm protecting myself by picking Bama and rooting for Georgia, but yeah.
It's all right. That's what I did with some of my picks this week. All right, so let's move on to what really ended up being one of the bigger storylines of the weekend. and that was UCF beating Auburn 34-27 in the Peach Bowl. UCF completed a perfect season, 13-0, champions of the American Athletic Conference. They beat. Look, I'm going to tell you this right now. They beat the third best team in the SEC.
Yeah.
People like Danny Cannell, who have no other purpose in their professional career than to try and destroy the SEC and everything they do. He'll try and say that they were the best team in the SEC. Not true, okay? They lost to Georgia. Yeah, they beat Alabama, but they also lost to LSU. And they lost to Clemson, who Alabama just dominated. So they're the third best team in the SEC, and they beat them. I really, from the second half on, I didn't think that game was in doubt. I thought UCF was going to win it. They looked way hungrier, much more interested in the result of the game. Auburn looked very lethargic, lackadaisical about a lot of the things they were doing. The drive wasn't there, and they made them pay. They lost the game.
My problem with saying Auburn's the third best team in the SEC is they beat Bama and they beat Georgia. But then they lost to Georgia in the SEC championship. But I just think they were so beat up from the Iron Bowl that they just didn't have all their horses. Tip my cap to UCF. That's an incredible run. And to match up against an SEC team like that, it was really marvelous. I was pulling for them and pulling for the underdog. Maybe we'll get to this later, but to me, that shows a demand for expanding the playoff. I thought last year the playoff was great, but I think it's time. What's everybody's favorite part about the NCAA tournament in college basketball? The Cinderellas. If it's not the Cinderellas, you're lying to yourself. At me, at McGheister, if you like something about the NCAA tournament more than the Cinderellas. That's why we love it. We love the upsets. We love the drama. We love the madness. I would love to see... Here's what I would do, and you can pick this apart and butcher it. I have 12 teams, okay? The top 4 teams get a bye, so there's still a push to be in the top 4. Each conference sends 2 teams, and then there's a G5, and then there's an at-large bid, okay? So 10 teams from the conferences, a G5, and an at-large bid. So you're that's...
So presumably one of the Power Fives would get a third team.
And it's most likely going to be the SEC. So this year it would have been Bama, Georgia, and Auburn, right? And then UCF would have been the G5. And then there's a bye for the top 4 teams. I just think that'd give everybody a shot. You open it up a little more. Each conference sends 2 teams. Maybe we take one away from the Pac-12. But I would love to see it. I'd love to see UCF take a crack at these big other teams, and I'd love to see Wisconsin play again. I do not like Ohio State. Sorry, Derek. I'm super anti-Urban Meyer, but they're good. You could argue that they're a top 4 team. Because they had a really bad loss, I don't think they deserve to be in the playoff. But that's the problem. I would love to see Ohio State in there. I would love to see Wisconsin keep playing. I would love to see 3 SEC teams, and I just demand more. I'm sitting there over this huge long break waiting for the playoffs to start when we could be having these great football matches going on the whole time.
My issue is when you start putting that many teams in, the conference title game becomes obsolete. It doesn't matter. So, in my opinion, if you're going to increase to that many teams, you get rid of the conference championship games.
Agreed.
Because that is a waste of a game. And the other thing for me is, the way I look at it is the 4 teams that get in, for the other teams that are all fighting for a spot, their playoffs essentially is their season. And at the end of their season, towards the end of their season, that is their playoff already.
Yeah.
So... Wisconsin, you want to see Wisconsin battle it out? They lost to Ohio State, so why should Wisconsin be back in there knowing they just lost to Ohio State? Put Ohio State in, maybe, but Ohio State didn't win enough games. You have UCF. That would be awesome to watch them have more cracks at other teams. They got one, and they won. So next year, and when you're planning your schedule, do it again, play someone. I think UCF is the one team that I'd like to see, but they didn't have the schedule to get in.
Right.
They didn't have it.
The question about group of 5 teams, this has been the case for as long as I can remember. The question was never about can they get up and win a game against one of these teams, because we've seen time and time again that yes, they can. Boise State's beaten Oklahoma, Utah beat Alabama. Okay, these kinds of things happen. Group of 5 teams have beaten Power 5 teams before. It was never, is the talent that much of a disparity? Okay, the question has always been, if UCF played a Big Ten or an SEC schedule, is there any chance that they're undefeated? And the answer to that question is no. It's not. Okay, they almost lost to Navy. Probably should have lost to Navy if you lost that game. They took double overtime to beat Memphis, who lost to Iowa State in their bowl game. Okay, so I don't want to hear anybody tell me that UCF deserved to be in the playoff. If you want to argue they're undefeated, they could be in, okay, but they did not deserve to be in the playoff. The committee rightly and justly left them out. There's nothing about their schedule, non-conference. Their best road win, I don't even know what it was. They didn't play anybody on the road. Even their toughest conference games, they played at home. They played USF, University of South Florida at home. They played Memphis at home twice. And I'm pretty sure they played Navy at home. Like, they didn't play anybody good on the road anywhere. And so they did nothing to deserve being in there. They didn't play any Power 5 talent. Okay, now I'm going to get people yelling at me saying, oh my gosh, but did you watch they just beat Auburn? Did you see that they just beat Auburn, this SEC giant? Yeah, I saw that they beat Auburn. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that a team can beat a Power 5 team. We've seen it happen before. This is not a new development. Okay? They did not belong in there. I think a problem with expanding the playoff and giving automatic bids to your conference champion is that now non-conference is completely meaningless. You don't have to win any non-conference games. You don't have to play anybody in the non-conference as long as you win your conference. And so I would schedule cakes in my 3 non-conference games and then get ready and put all my effort, I guess, into winning my conference instead of putting together a complete and sound resume altogether. I'm one of the people, probably creeping now into the minority of people, that likes it at 4. I think it's fine at 4. I like this aura of it's this exclusive thing that you have to get into and really genuinely earn. And I like the fact that usually there's going to be one, and in this case 2 conferences that get left out. Okay, if there's not a team in your conference that can win and go through your conference schedule and win enough games to get in, then they shouldn't be in. That's what happened to Ohio State this year. You lose, you get blown out at Iowa. I'm sorry, you can't be in the playoff. And so that I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with that.
I join you in that minority of wanting to keep it at 4 because the season becomes, in college football, the season becomes less meaningful the more teams you're adding to the playoff. More games you can lose. You know, part of the suspense of college football is when you're watching a game, you can't afford to lose. You can't, because if you lose, your chances of being in the playoff are done. And so I like it keeping it 4. And if you raise it to more, it gets to the point where everyone's going to want more every time. Like, think about it. We're already greedy.
It's not going to be enough.
It's not going to be enough. Eventually, you're going to get to 12. My issue is that, like, you can't. We're greedy already. We had BCS games. Okay, let's just be happy that we don't have that anymore.
That's
where
true.
You can tie as a champion.
True.
You now have 4 teams playing for a championship, an exclusive 4 teams that can play for that championship. And I think that this is just who we are. We always want more. You know, even in college basketball, 64. Now it's like 68. It's like throwing more teams in there that aren't going to win it. And it's like, let's just keep it at 4. Be grateful we don't have the BCS. Make the conference titles mean something, and make every game in your season meaningful.
I agree with you on the sentiment to an extent that you enjoy watching a Cinderella story, and I do. And if UCF had played in the playoff, I would have loved to watch them play in there against a good team that in a really, truly meaningful game. At the end of the day, that game against Auburn really was meaningless. You know, there was nothing but pride on the line.
Right.
Whereas in these games, there's national championships on the line.
Yeah.
I agree with that sentiment, but I would counter by saying that, okay, in the round of 64 up until the Sweet 16, I'm all for the Cinderellas. I want to see a 16 seed go to the Sweet 16, to the Elite 8. When we get to the Elite 8 in the Final Four, give me Kentucky, give me UCLA, give me Gonzaga, give me North Carolina, give me Duke. Those are the ones that I want to see playing each other. And I know people are going to disagree with that, and you might disagree with that. You might want to see the George Masons of the world go to the Final Four. That's okay. But all I'm saying is that whenever it gets down to the nitty-gritty of these big games, I like seeing Goliath versus Goliath. I like seeing rock in a hard place. Go at it.
My issue is I want to see the best teams playing. This is a side note. We're talking about college basketball. I want to see the best teams playing each other at the end, but I don't always want it to be the same chuffing teams every freaking year.
That's okay.
I don't want to watch North Carolina every single year in the championship. Like, throw up, like UConn one year. Okay, great. Arizona maybe another year. Like, But all of this, like, one and dones from Kentucky, and every year they've got amazing freshmen. Like, I get tired of Kentucky.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you're stoked to see Alabama in the national title again.
No, exactly.
So that's where I come from. That's why I would open it up to 12. I mean, or 8 or something. The reason why I think 12 is kind of a happy medium, there's still the regular season will mean more because you want a first-round bye, okay? I mean, if you keep it at 4, granted, I'm glad it's not the BCS. I really enjoy the college football playoff. But I got beef. I just want to know what the committee looks for right now. Who knows that the conference championships mean anything? It's almost worse to get to your conference championship, especially if you're in the SEC.
And have a chance of losing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at
Yeah, we talked about this in here a few weeks ago, I want to say, but there is no criteria.
Right.
It is a flawed system. Like, the playoff is flawed.
Right. But here's what kills me. Okay, you got Clemson at 1, Alabama at 4. Who was favored in that game?
Alabama was favored.
Alabama. And who's favored next week?
Alabama.
So it's just, I mean, it's not perfect, but
Let's do this.
But isn't that crazy, though, that they were favored against Clemson, they're favored in the title game, but yet some people are saying that they shouldn't have been in the playoffs.
So that's why I'm the opposite, where I say let in more teams. I would cap it at 12. I would be fine with 8. I just want to see, okay, who knows? Ohio State had a really bad loss, okay? And if Ohio State was in the SEC with that bad loss, they might have made it. But they're in the Big Ten, which is less respected. And I think the SEC's earned that respect. But I think Ohio State, honestly, is a top 4 team in the nation.
Do you think they'd beat Clemson?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I said that.
But the
I
thing
said
is,
that.
with
and
the
everyone, no one liked it. I said it.
But here's the problem: is with the way the playoff works right now, Ohio State couldn't go because of what they did to Penn State the year before. So it's just like this weird middle ground.
It's flawed for sure.
For me, it's like we tried to take the Band-Aid off, but we didn't take it all the way off from the BCS. But granted, I'm the guy who likes to see the George Mason go to the Final Four. I'm the guy who was rooting for Butler. Curse you, Gordon Hayward. But, to each their own. I just think more meaningful college football games would be great.
I think I'm all for playing more meaningful games, but I think in terms of the effectiveness of the system, I think 4 is perfect for what it is because there are no participation trophies being handed out here. Okay, USC would have been in the playoff this year if it was an 18 playoff. They won the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Right?
I think Washington.
Right. Yeah, or one of those two did.
Washington would have been there, right?
Washington and USC.
USC won it.
They played, I'm pretty sure. Or no, USC played Stanford.
Yeah, USC won.
Because Washington State would have gone, but Washington
right.
State, yeah.
We knew that, guys.
The point is that USC had no business playing for national championship this year. And under any kind of an expanded or any kind of system where every conference champion gets in, that was going to happen every once in a while. You're going to get a team in there, like in this case it would have been USC, that has no business playing for national championship.
Right.
And look, UCF just beat Auburn, okay, and that was an impressive win. If anything, to me, that's a testament of the talent hotbed that there is in Florida, what you can do with kids that you recruit from Florida. But look, in my opinion, they had no business. They did not deserve to be in the Final Four in the college football playoff. They didn't deserve that. They did not. Nothing in their schedule would earn it. If I coach a high school football team and we go 11-0, I have no business being in the national championship playoff, just because I go undefeated in a schedule like that. Okay, and so that's my only beef with what people have been saying about UCF is that they deserve to be in. They did not deserve to be in the playoff. The committee was absolutely right to leave them out. They did not deserve to be in.
If anyone has any better ideas of a college football playoff, tweet at us.
Email us at _the sports room, or you can email us at the sportsroomtalkshow@gmail.com.
We will answer because we haven't received many, but we will answer to any.
And I'd love to hear the ideas.
Yeah,
I honestly,
we'll throw them. We'll talk about them.
I think there's going to be a big shakeup in college football within the next couple of years, conference-wise.
I believe this deal that for the 4-team playoff, I think it goes through 2020 something.
Oh, really?
2021. I
think it's either 2020 or 2021.
And then obviously when it gets to that point, they'll work to either renew or reform the system. This is the Sports Room Talk Show. Spencer McGhie joining us in the room today, bringing the heat For that, we are appreciative. All right, let's move on to what else happened this weekend in the NFL. So college football dominated the weekend, but the NFL certainly deserves discussion about what happened this weekend. Let me just put this in context. There is no context necessary. Okay, the following teams are in the playoffs: the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Bills.
Say it again, baby. The Titans.
I just am shocked by that. So your guys' responses or your thoughts about what happened in the NFL this weekend, those teams getting in, teams like the Ravens not getting in, Seahawks not in, Cowboys not in.
The Bills, Jags, and the Chiefs, Titans are going to be two very ugly games to watch. And particularly the Bills, Jags. Tyrod Taylor versus Blake Bortles.
Talk about some mediocre quarterback play there.
I mean, talk about, that one's going to be a little bit rougher. I think the Titans have struggled as of the last half of the season, but they just got enough to get in.
Just scraped in there.
The Chiefs had a midlife crisis in their season, and now they're back, and those are two games. Looking forward to see how many Bills players catch on fire. Bills fans, catch on fire for their jumping on the table things. You guys seen those?
Yeah.
You've never seen those?
What was it?
Watch search hashtag Bills Mafia.
Bills fans jump off of things onto tables and look like they die.
Yeah.
And they catch on fire. Go watch it. They're
I did see
crazy.
a video of Bills fans watching the end of the Bengals-Ravens game, and Andy Dalton threw that super long touchdown pass on
prayer.
fourth.
Do they jump off cars on the
Weddle
tables?
losing $1 million.
That was disappointing.
That's rough. Sorry, brother.
So what was your thought, your reaction, Spence, about this last weekend and the upcoming wild card weekend in the NFL?
Well, my thoughts are I just really wish that the NFL only let the Pats, Steelers, Vikings, and Eagles in because nobody ever wins from the wild card, right? Oh, wait, sorry. I'm beating the dead horse, the college football playoffs.
True, though.
I love the NFL. I think it's great. I'm excited to watch some of these games. I thought it was wonderful to see the Bills players' reactions in the locker room. I mean, I would put a lot of money against Andy Dalton completing a pass on fourth down. That was quite the play by Derek's boy Andy Dalton. Who I'm most interested to see is Marcus Mariota. It's been rough in Tennessee. They squeaked in the playoffs.
Haven't been in the playoffs in 8 years.
Yeah, he's a big game. Well, not necessarily the biggest game quarterback, as we saw in the national championship a couple of years ago. But I like Marcus Mariota, and I want to see what he can do on the national stage. You don't really see him a lot out of Tennessee. So I'm really looking forward to watching him. I think the Jags are very interesting. I think Blake Bortles is playing for his future in Jacksonville. I think if he goes out there and implodes, he's gone. And that's tough to say, a quarterback that got the Jags to the playoffs, but I really do. Leonard Fournette's been a great story. I'm really interested to see the Jags. And week 3, the Broncos went to Buffalo and lost to the Bills, and I said, well, I thought the Broncos would be battling for the wild card. I said the Bills are going to make it in the wild card over the Broncos. Now, the Broncos fell off the face of the earth, but the Bills are tough. But I think they played to that bad weather environment a lot better, and so they're in Jacksonville, correct?
Yeah, they'll be in Jacksonville. It'll be hot. Humid, probably.
Advantage Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
I think the game I'm most interested in watching is the Falcons-Rams. It's going to be a good one.
I think I would probably go the other side of the NFC and say Carolina, New Orleans.
It's going to.
I've been hot on the Saints for the last few weeks. I thought that they were, once Carson Wentz went down, really, I thought that they were a shoo-in to come out of the NFC. With the young but aggressive defense that they have, and then Drew Brees is the best quarterback remaining in the NFC right now. Of all the quarterbacks in there, he's the most experienced and probably just flat out the best one that there is, with Carson Wentz being out. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I've obviously drafted the Saints when we did our NFL draft here in the sports room. I've got the Saints, I've got the Steelers, and the Chiefs and the Rams. All four of my picks made it into the playoffs. Two of yours, Derek, however, got the axe this weekend.
Well, I'm not the one taking ping pong balls to the back on Friday, so.
Oh, do we want to make a punishment for this?
I would say that I think the Falcons, Rams, Panthers, Saints, the wild card games, my vote is, well, not my vote, but my prediction is that one of those teams goes to the Super Bowl, not the Vikings or Eagles.
Agree. Also, something interesting to take note of, Tennessee and Kansas City are playing, and as long as Jacksonville beats Buffalo, we could see Kansas City, New England in the divisional round.
Hope
And
not.
Week 1.
There's been this sort of narrative being pushed, or the storyline that the Chiefs got the Patriots number. We saw it in Week 1. We've seen it in years past, really. The Chiefs know how to beat the Patriots, and that's what the divisional round matchup would be.
I will say this. This is my little plug for the Titans. The Titans are a run-first offense, and they do it fairly well. And the Chiefs have the 25th best run defense in the NFL. It's not going to be freezing, snowing, but it's going to be cold in Kansas City. The Titans are a feisty team. Like when you watch their games, if you've watched their games, they are not pretty wins. They are never pretty wins.
It was 15-10,
It was
I believe.
15-10. But you got to keep in mind, the Jacksonville played their starters. That's the 3 seed right there in the AFC. The Titans are a feisty team, and they have a great O-line with Taylor Lewan and Jack Conklin, and they will not roll over and let Kansas City. Like, they're a feisty team. Like, I wouldn't count them out and assume Kansas City's moving on. The Titans, they're a good team. They're not better than the Patriots, but I think they have a legitimate shot of beating a Kansas City Chief team who has kind of been back and forth struggling to find their identity all season.
I think that Alex Smith is playing for his future in Kansas City too.
Yeah, people are saying this could be his last Kansas City run because of Mahomes.
The Chiefs have not had great playoff success under Alex Smith, and Alex Smith had one run with the Niners where he got into the NFC Championship, but Alex Smith just notoriously cannot get it done in the playoffs. So with that scrappy Titans game, if you see them hanging around and Marcus Mariota's moving the pocket, I could see Tennessee squeaking out one. I mean, for the sake of watching the Patriots, my arch nemesis, I want anybody, even an ex-Ute Alex Smith, to beat the freaking Patriots. Just seriously, anybody with the Patriots. I'd like to see the Chiefs and the Patriots go at it. But I always root for the underdog, so I'll be pulling for the Titans that week.
So that's what I'm going to do here, real quick, Spence. So Derek and I, along with Biggin, when he gets back, I failed to mention that Biggin's not here today.
We love you, Biggin.
He coaches high school football and just had practice today and just couldn't make it. But he will be here on Friday, and he and Derek and I will make our picture wildcard weekend. But Spence, what I'm going to do, I'll give them to you rapid fire. Okay? Give me who's going to win and maybe a one-sentence explanation. All right?
Okay.
So we're going to start in the AFC, Tennessee, Kansas City, January 6th, 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. You've got
Kansas City, experience, triumphs, inexperience. In the end, I think Andy Reid's a good enough coach to get the Chiefs to the next round.
January 7th, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS, Buffalo at Jacksonville. You've got
I got the Bills. I'm on the Bills train. I don't know why. Maybe I'm falling for the feel-good
The red,
story
white,
that
and
they
blue,
snuck
dude.
in. The red, white, and blue. I mean, there's nothing going on in Buffalo. Sorry for our listeners in Buffalo, but I'll be pulling for you.
So then, in that case, you'd have Buffalo versus New England in the divisional round. I'm assuming you'd take the Patriots there.
Tragically, yes.
And then you'd have Pittsburgh and Kansas City.
Pittsburgh.
And then you'd have New England and Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game.
Let's go Steelers. I can't believe I say that. I do not like the Steelers at all, but I'm actually taking the Steelers.
You'd take the Steelers in that AFC
they
Championship
got a
game.
lot of motivation. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think AB will be back. And I think got robbed when they played the Patriots. They're going to be ticked. There's a lot of bad blood with some late season signings that have gone on. So I'm going with the Steelers.
All right, moving over into the NFC then. Atlanta versus LA. That is January 6th, 8:15 p.m. on NBC. You've got
This is the hardest pick for me, straight up. I want to go with my boy, Wade Phillips, and his wonderful Rams defense. But I'm going with the Falcons due to Matty Ice.
experience.
Yeah, I think they got a little chip on their shoulder. I think they just needed to get in the
Hungry to get
playoffs.
back. January 7th, 4:40 p.m. on Fox, Carolina at New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Going with the Saints.
Cam Newton, dude. Not a closer. At me. See our last Super Bowl freaking championship.
So then in that case, you'd have the Eagles at home against the Falcons.
Dude, I'm going with the Falcons. I think the Eagles could still freaking go to the Super Bowl. They won't run the ball. They have great running backs. Freaking Carson Wentz went down. I'm like, okay, the Eagles will be fine. Pound the rock. Pound the rock. They don't run it. It makes me so mad. Nothing makes me more upset when teams have great running backs and they don't run the ball.
Chase Sorensen, you agree?
And then in the other divisional game, you'd have Minnesota against New Orleans. You thinking long
He's
and hard?
thinking about Case Keenum.
Dude, Case Keenum, he's a great game manager. Vikings have a great defense, but in the end, Case Keenum's not going to get the job done, sadly. So
you take New Orleans.
Yep.
So then your NFC Championship game would be New Orleans versus Atlanta, NFC South matchup.
NFC South matchup. I haven't thought this far. I thought we were just picking the first round, so I'm kind of going off the cuff. But I think the Saints, due to the fact that the Saints this year run the ball,
And play a little bit of defense.
Yeah, and play just enough defense. I think you see the Falcons have a little meltdown. Prediction, Falcons have the lead in the fourth quarter and blow it. Because they don't run the ball and they're pounding the Patriots. I'm still salty.
So you'd have in the Super Bowl the Steelers versus the Saints.
Don't do it.
Dude, my brain says pick the Steelers, but I cannot allow myself to do such things.
Heart will let you.
So I will pick the Saints. Drew Brees, he's got that little mole or birthmark on his face. He's going to be holding another kid. Say, we going to Disney World, and we're all going to be happy for Drew Brees, and then he can leave the Saints and sign with the Broncos next year. Let's go.
You heard it here first. The Saints are winning the Super Bowl this year.
Last time the Bills and the Titans were in the playoffs, Music City Miracle, Titans made the Super Bowl.
Lost on the 1 yard line.
Lost on the 1
By
yard
the
line.
way, that was still a forward pass.
No, it wasn't. Do not get me started. Go watch that tape.
Just try to stir the pot.
This has been the Sports Room Talk Show, the sports show that actually talks about sports. Thank you so much for joining and watching us today. Again, follow us on Twitter at _the Sports Room _ the same tag for Instagram, I believe. We're also on Facebook. And if you want to get in touch with us, contact us, email us at thesportsroomtalkshow@gmail.com. Spence, you're the man, dude. Thanks for coming in today.
A pleasure. It's been fun.
Have a great week. Talk to you guys on Friday. Peace.